Hey, I want to welcome our local viewers to Kennesaw Happenings. We have Lucas back with us again as we talk about golf and business. Lucas, if you haven't listened to a previous podcast, is a recent graduate of KSU, came here to play golf. So, Lucas, for the people that don't know you, introduce yourself, and then we'll get on to the podcast.
My name is Lucas Mota. Was born and raised in Spain. I came to the US when I was 18 with a golf scholarship, and I recently graduated from my master's after finishing my eligibility. And now I currently join the workforce in the construction industry.
Awesome. We've talked in previous podcasts, and I think for our viewers that are thinking, like, how does golf and business tie together? You're in a unique position that you were, at a high level of competitiveness with golf and moving into, the opportunity to play collegiate golf. And now you're phasing into the business side. What would you say, like, so far? And I know we talked before we went on the podcast that your schedule is such that you'll be traveling here in the next week. Why don't you share with our listeners what that's like and how that came about?
Yeah, so what we do, it's basically we do projects around the world. The companies contact us who they want to grow their business and expand. So recently, a company out in Dubai contact us that they wanted to do some collaboration with us. Happened that the owner of the company is from Spain. That's where I play a big role in there since his English is not very good. I have to be the one who is meeting him and who is giving the exposure of my company to him, and I'm the media person. And yeah, golf played a big role into this because sometimes I don't have much working experience, so I have to be the face of it in terms of like the relationships and the golf game. So it's nice because they take you to places to play good because they want to show that they have good players. And I didn't really understand that until I saw that having a good golf game means that at least you manage to leverage one skill. It's not just you've been studying, you've been doing your own thing to graduate, you've been also developing an additional skill, which in my case it would be golf.
Yeah, for our viewers that don't haven't listened to a previous podcast, and I want to encourage you to go back because we've had a couple podcasts with Lucas. He was introduced to me by Rand Eberhart, which is a member at Pine Tree Country Club. And, it was just a relationship started from somebody that said, hey, look, I want you to meet this young, very sharp golfer. And, he's going to be finishing up in a year or two. And, I just think that you should know him. And I said, okay. And then, we had lunch and then it started that whole relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for people that don't know, and I know for myself, because I'm a decent golfer, probably got down to a 3, is playing with good golfers is a high for people that aren't playing at that level. And golf, for you, tell our viewers, like, since you've graduated and you're moving on to the business community and building relationships, how have you kind of stepped into those shoes, and what opportunities have been opening up for you by virtue of knowing how to play golf at a pretty high level?
Yeah, so first of all, invites to big events. I mean, the East Lake, um, to watch the Tour Championship. I gotta say that it's not only just about the fact of playing. It's also the invite to watch events because obviously they know that I'm a good golfer. Therefore, I'm going to enjoy the experience. So
Hmm.
that would be one, or also the invite to watch the Masters, or then the invite that was actually quite recent. It happened last week. They invited me, but they are trying to get me an invite at a big amateur event through a partnership that we have. The the owner of the company that we know and we work with him, he's a member at this golf course, and he's trying to get me an invite at a big amateur event that is being hosted at that place.
Hmm. Yeah, that's, businesses relationships. And I think golf is unique in that it bonds relationships because, for the people that aren't avid golfers, you spending maybe 4.5, 5 hours on with a person, you tend to get to know the person and develop a connection. Like I know some of my friends play tennis, and you still have a little bit of that, but you're across the net and you're hitting, and you're not like talking when you're playing tennis, except maybe yelling at your partner or something like that. But in golf, you're in a golf cart together, you're going to the 19th hole, you're enjoying a meal, fellowship, whatever. So what would you say to the young people that are thinking about, moving into a relationship with golf and business? What advice would you give to them?
Well, first of all, I would say train like a professional. I feel like not because you are not going to become a professional golfer, you should not train like a professional golfer. I feel that having the routine of practicing like one, even if the amount of hours that you spend on the golf course is not as many, but all the routine and structure, do it like a professional golfer because it has so many benefits out of it. Try to keep your game sharp, regardless if you're going to play competitive or not. And,
Mhm.
just explore talking to members at your home course and see how it goes from there. I can guarantee that they will be willing to play with you and talk to you and get to know you because especially if you are from abroad, they want to know your experience in here. And unless you're a very local that you already know all the members, it's always very valuable to know your experience.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have a friend that he's been on previous podcasts, and he when we first started, his question to me was, "I don't know that my English is good enough to be on the podcast." What would you say to the people that English is not their primary language? How did you kind of approach that when you're starting to, be around people playing golf and just general communication? What challenges did you face that you could share with our viewers that might give them some insights?
To be honest, none. I mean, the maximum it's probably that you don't know the exact word and you have to go around. But if you put it in a certain way, like you know more languages than the average person. So therefore, it's very, very hard to have two languages that you talk perfectly fine. I still make mistakes in English. I still make mistakes in Spanish. So it doesn't matter. As long as you are fluid and you are confident, you don't care about that.
Gotcha. When you came over, I'm curious, at 18, I had a person that was on my podcast, and he was at 15. He went to KSU and he didn't know the language. He didn't know a person. He didn't know anything. And so he told me a little bit about how he got acclimated to it. Was
Mhm.
there anything like you would watch a TV show, and study what people were saying, or did you do anything intentionally to get more comfortable with, the language when you came
Mhm.
over here?
Yeah, so funny story, like I've always used to watch the series and the movies in Spanish. But when you come to the US and you put the movie or the series in Spanish, it is not Spanish from Spain, it's Spanish from Latin America, which sounds extremely weird for me. So I started
Hmm.
watching the movies and the series in English, and now I can't stop. Like I can only watch them in English and sorry, English with subtitles or without subtitles because it sounds so much better.
Hmm. Yeah, I've heard that, and a couple people have shared with me that when they wanted to learn the language, they used TV to reinforce different things that helps. And I know with closed caption, that has, I always, well, I don't always, but I use closed caption and I turn down the sound because of just brain. My brain's more sensitive to sound now than it was before my stroke. So light and sound are very sensitive. But since I'm reading, I'm learning to digest the movies faster because
Mhm.
your brain has to work faster because it's
Right.
not just sound. So it's a little bit of sound and a little bit of text.
Yeah.
Do you see the same thing when you're putting the text on there and you're just kind of digesting the communication that you're listening to?
Yeah, it helped me to associate the pronunciation with the word. Sometimes, especially when I'm listening to music, for example, like I would listen the word, but I won't know exactly how it's spelled. So, watching the movies with subtitles, it kind of helped me to associate, okay, this is pronounced like that, this is pronounced like that. So it was pretty useful for me.
Good, that's awesome. So golf, like getting back to golf for a second.
Mhm.
What like now the next year in golf, what are you looking forward to as far as where your golf game is and what do you want to do with your golf game?
Yeah, so I went through a very, very bad stretch, not doing things in the right way and definitely not taking care of my game. It brought me to a very low point and confidence of my game. So definitely bring that back through a good practice routine, trying to go back to the gym, some mobility, flexibility, all those stuff. And train like I said before, like a professional or like a college golfer, doesn't matter, to bring back my some kind of A game or B game, whatever it's best that I can achieve. And from there, I will try to play maybe one or two tournaments a year as an amateur to basically to keep the spirit of the competition in it and kind of like have a motivation to practice. Not every day, but every time I can.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. I have seen this. When we were talking about the upscale apartment, the manor at Barrett. I noticed they had a golf simulator
Mm.
in their little sports bar, and I had a gentleman from a PGA Superstore and Ralph Stokes, and he was talking about their relationship with a company called, I think it's Five Iron, and it's
Mhm.
just comes into downtown areas and smaller places, but it attracts the younger golfer that wants to hang out, eat, drink, and just kind of have an activity.
Yeah.
What do you see like with your generation, like the the interactive golf part of the game?
Um, if you were trained as a professional golfer, or like if your goal is to be a professional golfer, it's kind of like weird feeling. You don't know exactly how to approach that because you have the competition very inside of you, and that's simply just go hit some balls, make some laughs. So for me personally, it's I still haven't found the relationship or like how to approach that kind of a scenario. But
Mhm.
If you're an average golfer and or you don't even play golf, I feel like that's the best way to start your game.
Yeah, I agree. Ralph also talked about that, the off-premise golf, like Top Golf, there was about a 1% migration over to on-course golf. And now over the last, I think he said 10 years, it has moved up to 6%. So people get in that off-premise golf, whether it's simulators or Top Golf, which is outside,
Right.
and they be able to get the bug. We used to call it. You get the itch or the bug, and you want to take it to another level.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like in business and golf that your age group is taking advantage of those situations where you can go play but not put 5 hours of time in?
Not really. I mean, maybe among the average amateur golfer, maybe they are doing it. I don't know. Probably the average amateur golfer doesn't even know that golf and business are very related. But I don't see it. I truly don't see it. I see it a lot in businesses that take their employees to there, kind of like as a social event or whatever. But
Right.
as a way to network for younger generations, I don't really see it.
Yeah. It's yeah, I found it to be kind of. I went to the PGA Superstore. I'm a member of their, I don't know what it's called, but you have access to the bays, and
Mm-hmm.
you can use them in their video. Like, what's the company that's popular with TrackMan? And it
Right.
has that TrackMan video, and I'm hitting and I'm looking at my video. I know when I hit the ball solid,
Right.
so I have that. But I found it kind of weird that I'm hitting into a simulator and trying to judge everything. I mean, yes, it was better than, because it was 8 o'clock at night and dark and wet, and I wouldn't be at the driving range anyway. But I don't see it replacing the high I would get being outside, but kind of a compliment when the situation
Correct.
is right, that it's raining or it's cold, and you want to have a place where you can just swing and just kind of keep, like you said, the fitness part of golf is important, because you want to be playing as long as you can. And if you don't stay physically fit,
Mm-hmm.
injuries come up, and your game doesn't respond as quickly, because the body's not what it was, say, years ago. So what do you see? Obviously you're doing some traveling in the next week. What are you looking forward to in, traveling so far away?
So first of all, obviously, I mean, getting to know the business and see how's that gonna play. I mean, definitely it's gonna be an interesting conversation. But
Mm-hmm.
something that I haven't done, and it's probably going to happen, we will go and watch the Omega Dubai Desert Classic,
Hmm.
but to the hospitality side of it, to the probably access to the clubhouse or whatever thing that is. So I never done that, and I'm excited to see how everybody interacts in there, and how to play the networking side of it and all that stuff.
Yeah, I would work for Nabisco years ago, and Nabisco was a major sponsor of the PGA at the time. And so I went to a few of the hospitality events. It's a different experience when you're in the tent, food, drinks, having fun, and then walking out and watching golf. So it is kind of uh, a really cool way of experiencing golf from the business side, because we invited some clients, and you get a
Right.
chance to spend some time with them.
Hmm.
So what okay, so as we wrap up, what I want you to give us an update on, like, I know you're mentoring and working a little bit with the KSU golfers in your role, having been through the Masters.
Uh-huh.
What do you what do you how can you share with our viewers what that, because it's kind of like you're going into a teaching mindset. How are you approaching that as you pour into some of the collegiate golfers on the team?
Yeah, so first of all, I've been teaching golf for like 40 years. Um, for the most part, I teach the average golfer or kids that are starting. So definitely teaching or trying to help a college golfer who is the same level that I am pretty much. It was a challenge. I thought that my maturity and further experience was gonna be the help. And so basically the work that we try to put, it's nothing technical. It's more of a strategy. Course management is a
Mhm.
big thing. And from there, it's just the fact that you can make the other person give an alternative shot that they might not see, but helps them to realize that their shot might not be the only solution, or that maybe they are open to hit a different kind of shot who is going to leave the ball closer or at a safer place. So it's just my role. I feel that it's more of giving them thinking, like, hey, what do you think about this instead of this, or why not this instead of this? So that was probably from the last couple tournaments where I was the assistant coach or playing the role of assistant coach. um, I felt that that was my duty.
Yeah, I like that. I really lean on the idea of strategy and thinking, and I that's what I one of the big things I love about golf is you always have to be thinking around the course, and you have gaps of time between shots. And what you think about during those gaps of time determine, how you're going to pull off that next shot. So
Right.
I love it that you leaned on the thinking strategy part of the game, because I think once people realize, even if they're beginner, new to golf, once you get the basics down, you start moving to more thinking and strategy. But it's just like anything, you got to get the basics down first
Yeah.
before you can go to the next level. So I want to thank for being on the podcast, and
Absolutely.
tell our viewers how they get a hold of you.
So they can follow on my Instagram, LukeSky_29, or they
Okay.
can find me on LinkedIn as my name, Lucas Mota Pascual. I'm sure if not, it will be attached on the video or whenever it gets
Mhm.
released. But
Yep.
yeah, in regards of social media, I don't really have much.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same way. I went off of it for a year, and I kind of liked it. It's easy to get caught in that big black hole of social media. And I think once you remove yourself from it, you see all the available time that comes, available. What would you like to leave our viewers with? We always like to have that insight from our guests. What would you want our viewers, to take home from this podcast?
Well, I think I mentioned the same thing on a previous podcast, but it truly is very necessary that you hit the golf course every time you can, even if it's just for 15 minutes or half an hour. It's worth it. I mean, obviously, if you live like 45 minutes from a golf course, it's going to be tougher. But even though every time you can, just go to the golf course, swing a little bit, breathe some air, walk some steps, because just doing that, it's so much more convenient. And make sure that you are practicing with a goal, even if the goal is very small, very little. Not just go there and swing balls, because then you are not going to improve. So just make sure you have an alignment stick or just something very tiny that makes you think about your golf swing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. Thank you, Lucas. I appreciate our viewers. I think that is so important, and we appreciate you sharing that with our viewers. And have a safe travel, and
Thank you.
we'll be in touch very soon. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you.